All right, this is lesson number 4, and this is your warm-up. It should be reviewing what we learned in lesson 3, which was all about measuring angles. So please find some empty space in your packet to work these problems out, or a separate sheet of paper. So the first thing it says, given that WYZ is 52 degrees, so I went ahead and labeled it in my drawing, answer the following questions. What is the other angle? Well, as I can see, this is a straight angle right here, which means it's measuring 180 degrees. So all I have to do is 180 minus 52, which is 128 degrees. All right, and then we're asking ourselves, is that big angle, XYW here, well, that's going to be obtuse because it's greater than 90 degrees. And the other angle is acute because it's less than 90 degrees. So it's going to be extremely important that you review this vocabulary. The vocabulary in Unit 1 is very heavy, but it's going to be words that we're going to use throughout the unit. And it's going to make your life a lot easier if you know what these words mean. So today we're going to talk about angles upon angles. And the first thing we're going to look at is what an angle bisector is. Well, we learned what a segment bisector is. So bi means to cut in two. And specifically in geometry, it's a ray that divides an angle into two equal parts. All right, so if we were to solve this problem, the first thing I'm going to do is label what I know. So AOB is 2x plus 10. That's going to go here. And COB, well, that's the other part. So I know this is a part and this is a part. And COB is x plus 22. Now, having said that I know that it's a bisector we're going to set up as part equals part because it divides it into two equal parts. So if I want to find the value of x, I can just simply do 2x plus 10 equals x plus 22. Now I'm going to subtract x from this side and subtract 10 from this side. 2x minus x is x, and 22 minus 10 is 12. So I know that my value of x is 12. The next part of the problem is wanting to find what AOC is. Now what's interesting is this is the whole, A to O to C is the whole triangle, or the whole angle. And so what I can do is I can plug it into either one. I'm going to plug it into the smaller one, 12 plus 22, which is 34 degrees. Now I know that this angle is 34 degrees, so that means this angle is also 34 degrees. So I can just do 34 times 2, which is 68 degrees. So that whole angle there is 68, being that this one was 34, and this one's also 34 because it's a bisector. So the whole thing is 68. So if I gave you the whole angle, and I wanted to know what the two parts were, I could just take 68 and divide it by 2. We're going to go ahead and watch a video within a video, and it's going to show you how to draw an angle bisector if you were to do a construction. Hopefully this will work. Lord. There we go.
Mr. Kelly, please call the main office. Mr. Kelly.
All right, so there you have it. That's how you would construct an angle bisector, and as you can see, both of the angles were equal. All right, so the first activity we're going to do today in our groups is that you're going to explore vertical angles. You're going to need one protractor, one piece of patty paper, which is just that clear paper that you can see through, tracing paper basically, and one paper. I will provide the paper, so if you were absent, you're going to need to see me to get that handout. And you just read the directions, assign roles in your groups, and make sure that everybody's participating. When you're finished, let me know and I will check it over. All right, the second activity we're going to do today is exploring linear pair angles. And again, you will need a protractor, patty paper, and one piece of paper. And you'll find all of that in your white bucket in the back of the class. And when you're done with that, please have your group raise your hand and I will come review and we'll discuss it. So what you should have explored in those two activities that we just did are a couple of different angle relationships that we're going to be talking about in class today. And so what makes geometry a little bit challenging is we don't give you the equations. We might give you a picture, and you have to be able to look at that picture and determine what equation best fits your scenario. So for example, if we have a situation where we have two adjacent angles just simply mean that they're next to each other, okay? They have a common vertex. The vertex is this point right here, because my thing's a little off, and they share a side. So basically, a formula that you would set up for adjacent angles is part plus part is going to equal your whole. And so you can see that if you added angle 1 plus angle 2, you would get the whole angle here. Now for adjacent angles, they are not equal to each other. They are two different angles, measurements, unless specified that that ray is a bisector. Okay, if you have a linear pair angle, so that means that you basically make this thing right here, which is what we call a line. So you've got these two angles together on the same line. Then the equation you're always going to use is part plus part is going to equal your whole. But in this case, because it makes a line, we know our whole is going to be 180 degrees. Complementary angles are two angles that have a sum of 90 degrees. They don't have to be adjacent, but in this picture they are. So you can see these two angles here making a 90-degree angle. This would be a part and this would be a part, and added together you would have part plus part is always going to equal 90 degrees. Supplementary, the way I remember the difference between supplementary and complementary is C is smaller in the alphabet than S. And supplementary, you're going to make a straight line again. So you should see that supplementary and linear pair essentially mean the same thing. The key distinction is that supplementary angles don't need to be adjacent. They can be separated. So you could have angle 1 up here and angle 2 over here, but you would still put them together to make a line. And again, you're going to be looking at the equation part plus part, and your whole is always going to be 180 degrees because a straight line always has 180 degrees as its whole. Vertical angles are what you looked at in that first example. They are non-adjacent, which means they're not next to each other. They're formed by two, well, look at these lines. They have an intersecting point. So they're formed by two intersecting lines, and these angles are always equal, or in this case we'll say congruent. So that means that angle 1 equals angle 2. So the equation you're going to use is part equals part. These are very important vocabulary terms. You are expected to know the definitions of all of these words, and we're literally going to use these definitions throughout the entire course. So learn them now and you'll save yourself a lot of time later. Okay, let's look at some examples of how we use these vocabulary words to solve key problems. So we've got this example of these two angles that are complementary. So when I see the word complementary, the number that comes to mind is 90. So I know I'm going to be using the equation part plus part equals 90. So I know that DEF is one part and FEG is the second part. And I want to find the measure of both angles. Well, I'm just going to do 3x minus 4 plus 5x plus 6 equals 90. And now you should just see a simple algebra problem. All right. If you want, you could also draw a picture. And if you were to draw a picture, you'd be drawing a picture of a 90-degree angle with a split. And this would be D. And I know that E is my vertex because it's the middle letter. It's the middle letter in when they define the angles. And F repeats, so I know it's going to be on the ray that's cutting the angle in half, or cutting the angle up. We don't know that it's cutting it in half. Anyway, having said all that, let's go ahead and solve this problem. I'm going to combine my like terms, which is 8x, and negative 4 plus 6, well, that's 2. Okay, then I'm going to subtract 2, and I get 8x equals 88, and then I understand that x equals 11. And now I want to go back to the problem, and it says find the measure of both angles. So at the last step, you would go ahead and plug it in. And this one would be 3x minus 4. So that's 3 times 11 minus 4. That's 33, 32, 31, 30, 29. So this one's 29 degrees. And the other one is 55, or 5 times 11 plus 6. So that's 55, 61. And if I added those together, I would expect to get 90 degrees. All right, my second example, it says A, B, C, and EF are supplementary. So when I see the word supplementary, 180 degrees, so I know I'm going to do a part plus part equals 180. ABC is my part, and EBF is my part. Find the measure of both angles. So this time I'm going to set up a similar equation, 2x plus 30 plus 5x plus 10. And this time it's going to equal 180 degrees because of the keyword supplementary. So this is 7x, when I add my like terms, plus 40 equals 180. Subtract out 40, you get 7x equals 140. Divide by 7, and you get x equals 20. Now that I know my x value, I can go ahead and plug it in. So 2 times 20 plus 30, well, that's 70 degrees. And my second one is 5 times 20 plus 10, and that's 110. And you can see that 110 plus 70 will give me my 180 degrees. And I know I didn't give you a lot of space in the packet, so you might have to crunch your numbers together, or you can use a separate sheet of paper and just staple it on the back when you turn this packet in at the end of the unit. All right, now for number 3, I got to look at the relationship between these two angles. They are not supplementary, they're not adjacent angles, but what I can see is that they kind of make a bow tie, they're crisscross from each other. And so now that tells me they're vertical angles, and so I know I'm going to set up an equation, part equals part. So it'll be 5x minus 48 equals x. So I get negative 48 equals negative 4x, so x equals 12. Okay. And for this one, if you see the word bisect again, you know you're going to be sitting in a situation where you're going to do part equals part. So QS is the bisector. PQS is a part. And this is a part, so you're just going to set them equal to each other and solve. And you should end up with an answer of x equals 10. All right, let's see what you have to do for today, for practice. We're doing an activity. You'll have to get the handout. You have practice homework at the bottom of the page that we were working on. And then please make sure you also do your Khan Academy. There are 4 assignments today, and then your exit ticket is on quizzes. and you will get the code off pages or off the front board. Okay, good luck.